There may be a scene on the cutting room floor where Gordon's like, "Hey, I like to keep things close to my chest."
Yeah.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by CinemaSins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from CinemaSins, joined as always by the voice of CinemaSins, Jeremy Scott.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you again. Yes, indeed. And for Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
A pleasure.
Yes. For a lot of you guys out there, it's been week to week. We've been doing this Marvel versus DC thing and everything. For us, it's been a month.
Yeah. Feels nice to be back in the studio.
We did 1 million podcasts in early June, and they came out like regular, and you guys were none the wiser except for the fact that we mentioned that. But now it's been a month, and we do know what you think about this bracket. Some of the criticisms, I understand you. I see where you're coming from. Some of them, I do not.
Mm-hmm. What do you think overall the response has been? Because I'm usually on the SoundCloud, Twitter side of it, and I haven't seen. There's been little nitpicks there, here and there, but normally they're like, I kind of get it, but I would do something different.
Yeah, I think it's generally been positive.
Yeah, generally positive, and just a little bit of vitriol here and there. Mm-hmm. People who are like, I love listening to this, but you guys got this wrong and all this. I thought this was interesting. On Discord, there were a couple of people who were talking about how they didn't like it, how we changed our criteria on each matchup and everything.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten that I had even addressed that in the last episode.
Yeah.
And I went on Discord and I was like, guys, you guys are expecting a lot of consistency when really honestly, when we're talking live and we're trying to find that edge, yeah, there's going to be times where something that was used before isn't, and something that wasn't used before is, and we're going to find that edge over two different movies. It's just like you were talking about with Flickchart, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to go up to Flickchart, and sometimes you're going to be like, but Back to the Future is my favorite movie, but The Godfather, is awesome. And how do I pick Back to the Future over The Godfather? And the same thing goes with comic book movies. I know a lot of you out there have this history with comic books. And comic book movies are your jam, and you have a very well-defined criteria for what you think is the best. We do not.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to acknowledge that one guy I saw comment and agree with him that Black Panther does belong in the conversation when we talk about Marvel movies ending with same versus same. Because in our praise of Black Panther, we had not mentioned that it also does have that same versus same. I bet you if you made a list, there'd be more than 50% of these movies on Marvel's MCU that end with some kind of same versus same.
Marvel's plots always seem to revolve around some sort of technology that a bad person wants to use, and then somebody else gets it, or a good person wants to use, and it's used for bad or whatever. And the bad version of it is always the bastardized, it's stronger, but it's maybe dumber or something.
Fucking Iron Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man, all of these things are going to end with same versus same, because it's the same thing with Superman. You're not going to beat Superman unless you have a Zod or unless you have kryptonite, which is bullshit. You want to see Superman fighting at full strength and meet his match.
Well,
right?
You bring up another thing that I had read when we were talking about the Superman snapping Zod's neck and everything, and we were like, how is that possible? Well, and somebody was sarcastically, just like anybody else snap somebody else's neck. And I was like, okay, so here's my problem with that. The problem is that Superman and Zod are punching each other the entire scene. If they had the ability to snap each other's necks, then punches should actually matter,
do
right?
some sort of damage.
So if that was the case, if punches if you can snap somebody's neck, you could also, their punch should make a dent, right? debilitate them in some way. But instead, they sit there the entire time throwing each other into buildings and like smashing all of Metropolis and all this. And then at the end, it's like, ah, I didn't want to do that. Oh my God. Why am I so strong?
Oh man. Oh man, he really matched his meat.
That's right. I'll tell you what's been cool. And I'm gonna be upset when Disney Plus takes all these things out, but going back in show notes and stuff like that, I've actually rewatched a lot of these movies on Netflix. So like Dark Knight, Spider-Verse, I've now seen probably another time and a half.
Yeah.
Had I done that before this whole thing, I may have been a little more vociferous in my Spider-Verse love, because that shit gets better every time
You
I
see
watch
that
it.
video that's going viral talking about the animation frame rates, where in the beginning of the movie they animated Miles at 12 frames per second.
Yeah.
So he's more jerky and less fluid, whereas Peter Parker was animated at 24 frames. And then as Miles comes into his own, they animate him at 24 frames a second.
I have not seen that video.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a pretty cool video, and it's an even cooler, like, I needed someone to explain that to me. It's not something that I would have ever noticed watching that. But I can see how that would help subliminally sell the arc.
Yeah. Well, there's God damn, there's so many layers to this. So that last post-credit stinger was the Oscar Isaac, Spider-Man 2099.
Okay.
And all I remember about that last thing was a riff on the meme of the Spider-Man pointing and all that stuff at himself. But before that, he's talking about like being able to travel interdimensionally. This is maybe how you explain the Spider-Gwen thing at the end, by the way. But I forgot, that's like a whole new wrinkle, because I don't think 2099 was in the movie at all until the very end, right?
Not that I knew.
But it's Oscar Isaac. He's interacting with like his Girl Friday or whatever it is. And there's like a whole new story that begins and ends with that punchline with the pointing. But like I could see that character being explored more. That movie is fucking great.
It is great.
Yeah.
It is great.
Anyway.
Yeah. We are going to start with the North Elite Eight, and it's going to hurt right off the bat. In fact, if you look at all the matchups, these are all going to hurt. Iron Man versus Road to Perdition.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, where do you start? Right, we've talked about both of these movies extensively over these matchups and everything. We give Iron Man a lot of credit for launching that MCU and doing so well with a property that I don't think anybody thought was going to be a big, huge hit. We've said it before. I feel like I saw that trailer and I was like, well, there's your first bomb of the summer right there. Might make $100 million tops. And it turned out to be above and beyond, and it's still one of the top five, if not the best.
And in terms of box office, or just in terms of quality?
Quality.
Yeah, I think so. What do you think Robert Downey Jr. does now?
I saw him in that chef show, like he was briefly in that.
Did you see that episode?
Yes,
that was a fun episode.
That was the night of the too many edibles.
That's perfect programming, though.
I may have watched the entire series, and I don't remember anything about it. I do remember this one lady who kept saying some chef's name over and over and over again in one episode, and I was like, God, yes, we know you like that dude. Stop saying his name.
I think he's going to direct.
You think? Has he directed anything before?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably something.
I feel like he
small.
has maybe before.
I mean, I don't feel like the guy needs money.
No.
He's really become, like you said, he's donating to green energy and stuff like that. He really seems like at this point he's vaulted above A-lister to where like you don't see him doing many interviews. He doesn't seem aloof personally. Like I bet he's still like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But like he seems untouchable at this point.
Like Clooney.
Yeah.
Like Clooney, yeah. He can essentially, he's made so much money and had so much fame and is so associated with the single part that he doesn't need to work ever again or do anything.
Clooney spends millions on satellite time to monitor a dictator.
Darfur, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's what we're going to look at. Okay, so Robert Downey Jr. is going to, spend a bunch of money and start this initiative to fight climate change. But I mean, that's when you get to that level and you don't need money anymore, you are probably likely to pursue creative passions, which might be directing or smaller films or more challenging roles, or philanthropy, some sort of legacy that you can leave that's bigger than yourself. I'm curious. Wherever he goes, I'll be curious to check it out.
Downey only has one upcoming director credit, and it's for a TV show called Singularity. It's going to have Anthony Michael Hall in it. But yeah, I could see him doing that. I could also see him just kind of, whatever.
Him and Anthony Michael Hall were buddies way back in the day.
Well, yeah, I was actually searching my brain to see, because Robert Downey Jr. was in St. Elmo's Fire, and the rest of the Brat Pack was in that, and I don't think Anthony Michael Hall was, though.
They're both in Johnny Be Good, and they're both in Weird Science.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty
Science?
Sure. Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is one of the bullies. Anthony Michael Hall is one of the main characters.
It's been forever since I've seen them.
And there was maybe one other in there somewhere that they were in together.
I think they were also. I think I read that they were legitimately friends back then.
Oh yeah, I mean, it seems like all those guys just kind of like literally ran around together.
I would love for some people who really only know Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man to watch Natural Born Killers.
Oh, Jesus.
If they haven't seen it.
No kidding, man.
Because that's going to blow their fucking mind.
His accent alone will blow your mind.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day for some reason. It may have been listening over one of our podcasts and everything, and Robert Downey Jr. came up, and I was like thinking, man, some people out there will get their minds blown if they saw some of his older movies, especially that one where he's so like just over the top in it and everything.
By the way, it was Rob Lowe in St. Elmo's Fire that I was thinking about, not Robert Downey Jr. Okay, so Weird Science. This is Robert Downey Jr. and Anthony Michael Hall. Weird Science. Johnny Be Good. God, I haven't seen that one at all.
Oh, it's not fun.
It's not good, right?
Mm-mm.
Hail Caesar, but not the Coens' Hail Caesar.
Right. This is a
1994.
Yeah.
And Anthony Michael Hall directed that.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Yeah. Hail Caesar. What a weird fucking thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was on a bunch of Saturday Night Lives, too. I forgot he was a member of the cast. What a weird career.
Yeah.
Anyway, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
And then I think we've glowed about Road to Perdition, too. I guess what this matchup comes down to is, what is your criteria? Is it elevated awesome movie or elevated awesome comic book movie, which is what this essentially is. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and save the suspense. I'm going to say Iron Man on this one, because I think in the spirit of what we're trying to do here, Road to Perdition didn't really need comic book material for it to be,
That's true. That's true.
Well, and let's be honest, this is like the last few episodes of a season of Top Chef, where they're like, all three of these dishes are A+.
Yeah.
What can we criticize? Well, this one could have used a teaspoon more gravy.
Yeah.
Right? And that guy gets sent home.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what we're really doing here. I'm not ready to vote yet.
Here's the interesting thing about Road to Perdition versus History of Violence or even V for Vendetta. Because V for Vendetta, was that a series or was that like a graphic novel? Do you know?
I think graphic novel.
Okay. And then Constantine was a series. So like the ones that are kind of outside of the norm is what I'm thinking about. Of all of those, Road to Perdition is shot like a graphic novel or comic book more so than any of the others.
Yeah, V for Vendetta was an Alan Moore graphic novel.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, V for Vendetta is shot like an action movie. A really, really well done action thriller type of political thriller, basically. History of Violence has some very nice iconic shots that look like panels, but it's not like the entirety of the thing. Road to Perdition is shot, each one of them is framed as a panel. I've gone back and I've read that graphic novel. It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And there's so much that came straight from the page. I know Zack Snyder did that almost to criticism in Watchmen, to where he did it too much. This is just the perfect amount because you can see the action moving in Road to Perdition, but you can also see those frames and like how it fit in. So to me, of these kind of outliers, I think this is the more comic booky version of that. And I got to pick Road to Perdition because there's so many layers to it, and because you can see it translating to a comic book, a graphic novel, and I'll probably regret it because I love Iron Man. So it's up to you, my friend.
Oh no. I'm sorry, Iron Man.
Oh,
Road to Perdition.
Oh, I would not have called that.
See, if this bracket was like the one we did earlier, I would have picked Road to Perdition.
I totally get your logic on why you picked what you did.
Yes, but considering the comic book spirit, I'm strongly for Iron Man in this thing, and I've been outvoted, which is fine.
Well, this is at least not as bad as Sideways and LA Confidential.
Or Rocky and the Dark Knight.
Yeah. See, now I take issue with that though. A lot of people brought up that Rocky Dark Knight thing as if that was such a chasm between quality.
I don't think
and
so.
I think that's a chasm between generations.
It's got to be. You go back and watch that first Rocky again, you will get
First
all
Rocky
the feels.
is fucking amazing, and
is.
it's become sort of a joke over the years because of all the sequels that came out and everything afterwards. But that first Rocky is such an excellent movie, and I don't mean to be doing that again, but I just thought, man, you guys keep bringing that one up like there's some just supreme divide that we completely missed.
No, see, I view Rocky Dark Knight. I voted Dark Knight. I view that as an emotional defeat. Whereas Sideways, LA Confidential, I view that in hindsight as a mistake. I voted the wrong way there. I would probably
Would
to
you
have
vote
that
differently?
one back. I think so.
I don't think I would, man.
Yeah,
I think so.
that was the one. That's the one that I was deflated with. I like both of those movies, but I like Confidential.
Well, to me, that was the emotional pick. I think you and I picked Sideways. Because I think it resonates with us emotionally more so than LA Confidential. LA Confidential is definitely the better shot film, I guess, better technically a better film.
Way better story.
Yes, way better story for sure.
Performance. I mean, you have Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church anchor that Sideways, but there's a million people in LA Confidential that are great.
Yeah, I mean, you even coax a good performance out of Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
who
back in the day,
just phones in.
Back in the day, that was his MO. He was
That's
awesome.
true. He was pretty awesome.
Especially as Sid
I would say
6.7.
I would say coax a great performance out of Kim Basinger is
Yeah,
probably
that's
closer.
true. That's
Although Basinger, it was okay.
She won an Oscar for that.
Yeah.
That always bothered me.
I know.
Have you seen this loudest voice in the room, by the way?
No.
The Russell Crowe playing Roger Ailes. Is it Roger
No,
Ailes?
but I heard he lost his temper.
Shocking. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
He wanted the movie to be a more sympathetic take on Roger Ailes, and I guess it was more of a Vice type hit job.
Yeah.
I'm you're the title character. You probably could have ironed that out before you even start filming.
And you can see both. I mean, I'm sure he probably didn't handle it well given his history, but you could see both sides of that argument too.
I'm not going to even say a word.
I mean, from the performance aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
you
all
can
I'm
see
saying.
as an actor why you want the character you're playing to have some measure of sympathy.
Yes.
I get that.
Yes, not the actual person.
No, okay.
Road to Perdition moves to the final four. We move on to the West region where we have The Dark Knight versus Black Panther. And it's another one that's going to hurt. Another one I saw both of these just recently, over the last week. Oh yeah,
on Netflix.
So you have a fresh perspective on these two movies.
They're very. I mean, you can't really get more different in terms of shooting because Black Panther, despite the title, is very colorful. It's extremely the visuals pop. and like all the colors, and even in the city center, all over Wakanda, the stuff in Busan, the purple energy that emanates from that new suit and all that stuff, the way that everybody dresses. I did go back and watch specifically that cliff scene, and you're absolutely right. There's people not just hanging out, they're like doing things like this and like throwing their arms all back and forth, and it looks fucking awful.
Yeah. It's just, there's something unnatural about it. I can't figure it out. It's either the frame rate of those people, or it's a scale thing, or it could be a combination of all those things. But like every time there's a digital crowd, it just never looks right.
Well, here's the problem with that. If it's a visual choice to say, I want to represent, all of Wakanda, that's not all of Wakanda. Mm-hmm. That's like, enough people to sit on a cliff face. That's like a REM concert or something like that. It's not a fucking, it's not an entire country. So I
think REM can pull more than 24 people.
So either scale it back to where it's just practical humans standing on that fucking soundstage, or do a Lord of the Rings type of thing where everybody's in that fucking thing.
I would like to know, just especially in light of that Shazam director's video about the problem solving of movie making, which was a fantastic video.
Yeah,
I would like to know how the way they ended up shooting the cliff scene solved their problem. I would like to know the story of how that became the solution. Can we not get the actors here?
Yeah.
Can we not put them on the cliff because of safety reasons? Can we not fake the cliff? Like, it's baffling to me.
I agree.
Considering that there are two of those scenes and they are anchors in the whole film.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I don't know.
And it sort of takes you out a little bit, because I understand why they didn't do too much work on it, because they don't show those people during the fights. They only show the people who are at the bottom looking on. So it may have been a cost thing. Like, are we really going to build a whole thing for this? But it in a way takes you out, because it'd be nice to see all the people like cheering it on from the stands and everything, or the stands, but the cliff.
Yeah, have a background shot like going over the crowd and all that shit.
Yeah. So it's kind of disconcerting when you see this crowd full of people, this cliff full of people, and then it just kind of like, well, we're just going to focus on the bottom level. Everybody else is kind of out of the frame.
The only other big story issue that I had with Black Panther, it's always been an issue for me. I think we sinned it. Daniel Kaluuya's character turns on a fucking dime because T'Challa has been Black Panther for like a week, less than a week.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Go get me Claw." Right. He goes and chases fucking Claw down. He gets away, but he does everything that he's supposed to. In fact, he does get him. He captures him. But
decides not to kill him.
Right. And after that, he's already gotten him once. He was going to imprison him. It was only Killmonger that was the reason that he escaped. And Daniel Kaluuya's character is just like, fuck you, man. I'm going for this dude that I've never met before, but he's got Claw. Even though we grew up together and all that bullshit, I'm fucking switching on.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this whole thing. A lot of Wakandans die because of this.
Yeah, if it had been something where it's like 6 months later or something like that, and he's like, and he's still sitting there talking some bullshit about how he's not going to get Claw, then maybe.
Like, damn it, T'Challa.
Yeah.
He does turn on a dime. It feels a little convenient, like plot reasons why, but again, the movie's got so much going for it. Again, I can overlook this and that. Like the final fight scene is not only as same versus same, it's dark as night down there in the inside of the mountain, and
it doesn't have to be. We've seen these two fight. That practical fight in the fucking in the pond,
which is outstanding,
which is great. It's just as good as Batman Bane in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Do you see that big of a flaw in The Dark Knight?
Well, there is that Joker performance.
Yeah, that's
I was also going to add, I feel like Black Panther's a more kinetically shot kind of film, a lot of sweeping, moving cameras that just kind of give you this feeling of motion, whereas The Dark Knight is much more stark and you know what I mean?
Like the pan over Hong Kong and all that shit.
I mean, the main knock against The Dark Knight, I think, is the plot holes of it, especially Joker's plan to get in prison and all this, like, you know, planting the phone inside dude's stomach and all these things that really he shouldn't have that much foreknowledge.
Yeah, did you? I'm sure you broke that down I know you broke that down in the Sins
I think
video.
we did. Let's talk about Joker's plan in this.
So you basically, what I typically do is I'll write down, like, here's what had to have happened first, here's what had to happen, sort of that kind of thing. Did any of it make any possible sense, Joker's plan? Like, as far as, like, when he had time to have the guy sew the thing in?
See, I'm not as bothered by how complicated his plan is as I am by the fact that he has one. Because this character's going to go on to claim later, do I look like a guy that has a plan?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you do. A very convoluted one that took weeks to set in motion.
Right. Yeah. Now, and I have not seen The Dark Knight in a while, so I can't remember every single little detail about it. But I do think that getting, Aaron Eckhart and Maggie Gyllenhaal in two completely different areas with two different things, and setting up all this thing, everybody does the exact thing that they're supposed to do for his plan to work. Like there's too many moving parts. Like, you could plan this perfectly and still,
one thing would throw it off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I never really enjoyed the whole faking Gordon's death, like, mini subplot. It never made much sense to me.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense,
I'm going to fake
right?
my death to protect my family, and I'm only going to tell Bruce Wayne Batman? Does Batman even know? Does anyone know?
Batman doesn't know.
The police commissioner doesn't know. Like, the mayor doesn't know. None of the other cops know. Who did he even tell?
Dent. Didn't he tell Dent?
No, because Dent's the one who's
He
like,
says
you really do keep things close to the chest,
that's right.
even though that was said to somebody else. It was said in a recognition that they've said this before, but it was two completely different.
Yeah, it was Bruce saying that to Lucius.
He says close to the vest.
Yes,
and the other guy says close to the chest.
He's like, you do keep things close to the chest, like they had some. It doesn't make sense.
Like, there may be a scene on the cutting room floor where Gordon's like, "Hey, I like to keep things close to my chest."
Yeah. You're like, guys, this makes the movie 5 seconds longer. We can't do it.
One of the things I like about The Dark Knight is that it got us. Initially, I didn't like it. It got us out of the Wayne Manor and the mansion and the Batcave.
Yep.
And it gave us this sort of city Batman who has a penthouse and who's got this shipping yard crate that elevators down into like a concrete Batcave. And then by the third movie, back in Wayne Manor. But I like breaking it up.
I agree. And I think that's why the 89 Batman was so good, because it got you out in that cityscapes and all those Tim Burton-esque gothic type of things. And the same thing here. And we've talked about how you making Chicago a character was so perfect. I mean, everything worked out perfectly. The Trump Tower, the Blue Tower was still under construction down on the riverfront. That was perfect. The Marina City, the corncob buildings that we want that he could drop right into was perfect for that action set piece. It's like Nolan looked at the architecture of Chicago and was like, I can do some shit with this. Like,
he even wrote the ferries into it.
Yeah.
That movie Chicago is fuck.
Yeah.
That movie's more Chicago than the movie Chicago.
Yeah, it literally is.
It is.
I didn't mean to get back to the negative. This is something that else I wanted to bring up during all the planning and everything, was that Joker taunts that one dude that's guarding him and talks about like how his friend, like, whatever, he screamed or he cried or whatever the hell it was to get that guy all riled up so that he'd fight him and everything. That's another part of his plan.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm going to get that guy so riled up about his buddy that he's going to want to beat me up. And of course, I'm the Joker. I'm going to beat him up.
Yeah.
And it's going to turn the tables and everything. This is one of these, I don't know if it probably wasn't Dark Knight that started this, but this is a common thing we see in all of we saw it, in Infinity War. With Star-Lord and everything. It's like this idea that people just lose their shit over I understand being emotional about somebody you've lost and everything, but I don't understand being that emotional to the point that you fuck everything up. Every time. Like I mean, I understand that that's going to happen for some people, sure, but they make it sound like everybody is like that with these movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't like that either, but yeah, I The Dark Knight is just technically just an excellent film. And so I can sort of ignore a lot of those little things in there. It's still fun.
Yeah, it is. It is fun, even though it's a pretty big, serious movie with a lot of weight to it. But it is fun.
I think that's sort of by the way, don't mean to have an aside, but I think that's sort of what people sort of don't realize about us when we're CinemaSins and everything. Is that when we do something like that and pick apart The Dark Knight, like all this other stuff and everything, we could still totally be having fun with what they're showing on the movie in the movie. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, we're putting it on notice for a sin or whatever, but still, like, secretly we're like, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times.
I found myself smiling a lot at the movie that I'm sending right now, even though it's terrible.
Oh God, not me.
There are times, obviously, yes, the vitriol is real and we don't like anything,
like
but
Dumbo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I loved your description for Dumbo, by the way.
I didn't want to play around with that movie. Yeah. People need to know.
So it comes down to what are we going to pick here?
Dark Knight. I feel like I'm one of the biggest Black Panther fans around.
Yeah.
And this was a very easy decision for me.
Yeah. You can't ignore the impact that Black Panther had. And I think I did on the last pick, because I think I picked against it in the last round. You know, it was this groundswell of, like, you know, people were... It's hard for me to say it, but people were empowered. People saw themselves on screen. Not only themselves on screen, but like in a superhero, positive, we run the world, we have the greatest technology sort of way.
And a movie that domestically beat Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, well, again, it was in theaters still when Infinity War came out.
That's the only reason I was able to watch everything again was because Black Panther was still going on at the time Infinity War was about to come out.
Man, The Dark Knight definitely had, you know, cultural relevance. I mean, it got Heath Ledger an Oscar, which I guess is probably the only acting Oscar for a comic book movie in the history of ever.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen again. Be interesting to see if anybody from Endgame will get nominated. I don't think so this year.
For acting, there are things like it's going to get nominated for.
Yeah,
that it deserves.
Sure.
But I don't know if acting's one of them.
God damn, I think that tips the scales, because I'm going to vote for Black Panther. The thing that tips the scales is that I did find a glaring flaw in The Dark Knight. And it's all of the Two-Face stuff. Almost all of the Two-Face stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's tacked on. I don't think you need it at all. And I understand, like, the villain turn so that he can become the hero of Gotham, always whatever fuck. But, like, I don't like any of the Two-Face stuff, except for how horrific it looks.
Good makeup job.
I think just for relevance and comic booky-ness, I'm going to go Black Panther.
Okay, so decisions on me, huh?
Yep.
I'm going to pick The Dark Knight.
No bad choices.
Yeah.
Except yours.
I think in the end, what gets me is that the technical excellence of Dark Knight is going to beat Black Panther.
Yeah.
Even though there are many things technically wrong with Dark Knight and everything. But that final battle scene and everything gives me a headache. I can't take any of those. Yeah. I can't take those anymore. There's something that's happened, and it's all the digital age. It's probably what it is. But Braveheart, remember how Braveheart used to get like hundreds of thousands of extras and everything to go and fight, and it looked real because it was.
Yep.
And now we do this thing where it's like, well, we've got 10 actors, let's just put the thing in the the thingamadoogle and
well, and I know some of them, Robert Downey Jr. can't fly. in real life.
That's true.
What?
But like the whole thing about the Civil War battle at the airport, how like only half the actors were even there.
Yeah.
Because they didn't need them because they weren't
there's no
showing
reason.
their face.
Yeah.
There's makes me a little bit sad. Maybe I feel like I can feel that when I watch that sequence.
I agree. Did you see the thing that Tom Holland said that everybody in that last scene in Endgame was actually there on set? Everybody
really?
at the last shot of going through everybody that's ever been associated with the MCU.
Oh,
everybody was
there.
on that set.
Huh.
He said it was the most insane thing he's ever seen because for those schedules to all work out for as much as those people work, it's insane.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
And
nuts.
it's that actually, I want to watch it again, just getting goosebumps thinking about it, which is stupid, but just kind of getting the band all together for one last time.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Except for Tony, I guess.
I wonder if Gwyneth Paltrow remembers being there.
Yeah, probably not.
We were at a lake, and I had vagina rocks in me, and
Yeah, right? Mhm.
rumbling around in there.
Yeah, just rumbling
Did you
around.
see the thing? Do you know who Grimes, the singer?
Uh-huh.
Did you see the shit about her today on Twitter?
What was the deal? Like
She's talking about her workout regime.
yeah.
Not regimen.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it included having the outer layer of her eyeball removed
regime. Oh, yeah.
to like cure her depression. I'm serious. You need to check out Twitter when you get
This
home.
was, what's her name again?
Grimes.
Grimes,
She's
that's
dating
right.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh.
like, if anybody knows about eyeball layer removal technology, it's probably that guy.
Would vaginal rocks like work like bobble the you know, just hit the little boggle
Yeah,
no
yeah.
no what's the one
Weebles.
what's the
Weebles.
one where you hit the little bubble and there's like the dice in it? That's what I thought about when you brought up vagina rocks. Is it not bobble? What is it called?
Boggle?
I thought
Is boggle is the one where you like shake
Yeah.
the letters, but there's another board game where there's a bubble in the middle.
You're right. I don't remember that game's name. I know what you're talking about, though.
There's Bubble Bobble.
Bubble Bobble.
Maybe it's bubble bobble.
Bubble Bobble.
Is that the bubble in the center of the board?
No, that's not it.
You hit the bubble and the
no, I know
dice
what you're
fly,
talking
the
about.
dice go a certain way, and
Yeah, it's like shake and take. Shoots and bladders.
Shoots and bladders.
trouble.
Trouble! That is the name of the game.
Yeah, trouble.
It starts with T.
So
Imagine the vagina
vagina
rocks.
rocks. It's like trouble.
There's so many different things popping in my head.
Oh.
Like the 50 Shades, the second one, where he brings out like these beads, and she's like, "You're not putting those in my butt."
yeah.
And he's like, "They don't go in your butt." Like that's better.
Yeah, I know.
No, they go in your pussy.
Yeah.
They
So
go
you're
up,
gonna be-
they
you're
go
gonna
up your
walk-
nose, and they come out your mouth.
That's gonna make you feel so much more comfortable.
Flossing
Yes.
action. Nasal flossing.
Man, what terrible people those people are. They're terrible people.
Whoa.
She's like, I don't want to do any of this shit that you like doing, but fuck, you're so hot.
Oh my God! I mean, he's the worst. He's the worst.
So hot and rich. I'll let you do that shit.
Oh man!
That's
Take 'em on up
that's the underlying theme, right? You know, women will put up with anything as long as you're hot and rich.
I
what I took away from it.
I think it's the same for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did the Dark Knight win?
Yes,
It did win. It did. But really, the real winners are the listeners.
yes, and the makers of Trouble,
Yes.
and the manufacturers of vagina rocks.
Right.
Wow.
That means the Final Four matchup will be Road to Perdition versus the Dark Knight.
DC on DC.
That's right.
For all y'all people saying DC doesn't have a chance in this.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get one in the final.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the South region where we have Avengers on Avengers Violence.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
The Avengers versus Infinity War.
Ooh.
I tell you what, Infinity War is the Avengers movie that I've watched the most, weirdly enough.
Mhm.
Because I'm just constantly on Netflix. Like, I'll play 30 minutes of it or something like that. Because there are 30-minute stretches in there where it's glorious.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I really love it, but I keep watching it. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I would probably watch. I mean, I don't typically just go and watch these movies all the time. Like, it's not like, I have a couple hours to kill, I'll just throw that on or whatever. But I think if I did, it would be Infinity War would be the one that I watch more, just because there's so much going on and everything. The first Avengers is just we've talked about what a miracle it was to have been made, because so many things had to go right in this for it to culminate in this whole thing. Iron Man had to be a huge hit. Captain America and Thor had to be at least decent hits. If they were kind of like, can you imagine if Captain America and Thor kind of like just didn't do anything?
No. Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. Did they do well? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, they did well. I don't think they were.
Iron Man
they weren't
well.
like made. They weren't like super like. Yeah, Iron Man went over 400 million domestically.
Okay.
Captain America and Thor, they may have hit 200.
But then the second Cap brought half the Marvel Universe into it, and I think that's when the Cap series decided to start making lots of money.
Third Cap or second Cap?
Second Cap was Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier was the one that
so it did bring everybody.
Winter Soldier was the one that sort of legitimized, quote unquote, like these films as everything is, people really just like, okay, now I'm sold completely. I mean, Avengers obviously, but that was more of a build up type of thing. Winter Soldier was a prestige type of success, because it's like everybody's on board, not just comic book nerds, but everybody is.
So they had, before Avengers, there was two Iron Mans. There was, right? Two came out because that introduced
and then one of each of the other two,
Thor and Cap.
Yeah.
The first Avenger made 176 million.
That's domestic.
And Thor made 181 million domestic.
Thor beat the first Avenger?
Like by $5 million.
Oh, that's crazy.
I think Captain America, the first one, came out in like April.
Yeah, it sounds right.
And Thor came out in October, something like that.
They're almost exactly on the same level of quality in my mind.
Oh, no.
Thor came out fine.
Yeah.
Thor came out May 6th.
Oh, wow.
And then Captain America came out July.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
So
America's birthday.
Yeah. So May and then July.
I don't know why I'm doing this voice.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's what America's.
I think Winter Soldier might have come out in April.
It did come out early.
One of these did because it came out April 4th.
Yeah.
Anyway, they did just enough to sort of continue that ride into Avengers, and Iron Man 2 obviously did gangbusters and everything. And then it finally built up to that Avengers, which, we hadn't seen anything like that since Titanic and Avatar, I guess. But we hadn't seen that type of thing since Avatar and Titanic. This is huge, just huge. And it continued throughout the summer. It was also a bad summer.
2012?
2012.
Yeah. So we got Dark Knight Rises that summer.
Yeah, but it was the competition that came out the year Avengers came out. It was like Battleship, and there was like
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, but that was like July.
I'm just looking at our early Sins videos because I know those were all 2012 movies.
Right,
so Prometheus, Skyfall.
I'll look at the release schedule that year because
Hunger Games.
Because Avengers basically had a no competition ride all the way through like June or something like that.
And then Joss Whedon did Much Ado About Nothing. Right after Avengers.
In black and white.
This will be an interesting little history thing here. So the following week, Dark Shadows. The week after that, Battleship, What to Expect When You're Expecting. The Dictator came out on a Wednesday. The 25th was Chernobyl Diaries. Men in Black 3 came out on the 25th.
Wow.
Then June 1st, For Greater Glory. I don't know what that is. And Andy Garcia, he was probably in it for 3 minutes. Snow White.
Hey guys.
Snow White and the Huntsman came out. Then on the 8th, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, and Prometheus.
It's crazy to me to think that Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson were still dating this summer. Mm-hmm. And then they had that whole thing where she might have smooched the director of the Snow White and the Huntsman, broke up. Now he's Batman and she's gay.
Right.
I'm just saying a lot can happen in 7 years.
Yeah.
I'm just saying a lot can happen in 7 years.
It's very true. The 15th of June was Rock of Ages, and That's My Boy.
Oh, my God.
The 22nd was Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, Brave, and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Brave was probably the next big next-level hit that came out since Avengers. Everything else was nothing.
Wow.
Brave sucks.
Yeah, and I didn't like Brave. So, and then like you got stuff like Ted, which was a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Mike.
You could maybe make an argument that Ted was such a huge hit because the audience was so desperate for something
Could be
remotely resembling good.
Yeah.
And it was better than people expected, too. When did Cabin in the Woods come out? Was that 2012, too?
Ooh.
Sounds right.
Or it was maybe right after, because that would mean Hemsworth was in Avengers. He was in Huntsman, right? He was the Huntsman, wasn't he? And then Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods came out April 2012.
Oh, it came out before, but then nobody knew who
But it
Hemsworth
also had
was.
been, I think it also had been pushed back.
Right.
Too.
Oh,
Like it was supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out before. So yeah, the Avengers is an achievement. However, I've never been a huge fan of the Avengers, and I know that's like I mean I like it, but I've it's one of those movies where I don't like most of what I see until like the last 20-30 minutes of it. And I feel like the last 20-30 minutes of it were so good that a lot of people were like, yeah, that was the movie I wanted to watch. But like I was not a big fan of all the setups and all the other little action scenes that happen leading up to the big battle.
Whole Thor, Cap, Iron Man battle out in the woods.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, it's like 5 minutes of the movie, though.
That's one of the parts I actually don't like.
You don't like that?
Everybody loves that part.
Yeah, I could see. I just like the way we always talk about how it's nice to see everybody using their own ability, and it in that scene, everybody's using their own defense and
well, and you
offense
also
and
have
stuff
that the hammer hitting the shield,
yeah,
and all that. That's really cool and everything. But yeah, The Avengers has never been one of those movies that I've held in high regard. Like, and I know that's against everybody's, thing. And I think you guys already know where I'm going with what my vote is after all I've said about both of these movies. But Infinity War, I think, is even more insane how much they had to get done in that one. And everything is getting a little bit more technically excellent. And it's just, really, Infinity War is my jam out of the MCU. So I can already go ahead and vote, and I'll just go ahead and say Infinity War is my vote. So
Why don't you like that scene in the woods?
Why do you love them so much?
Why do you love them so much?
It doesn't make logical sense to me. It feels like people who read these comics have always wondered who would win in a fight. But I think the same thing about when they do it in the comics and make them fight each other. I don't get off on good guy versus good guy shit.
Well, okay.
If it was just for fun, like Superman racing Flash at the end of Justice League, I'm down with that. But here what we have, to me, is everyone's pulling their punches because even though they're frustrated with each other, they know they're all not bad guys.
No, but Thor doesn't even know who Stark is.
Well,
and I don't think he knows who Cap is either. And Cap and Tony are already bumping ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Tony had only just shown up.
Right. He'd just shown up and flew up into
Germany
the thing.
or whatever. And then they get Loki, and then that's when Thor attacks them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he grabs
Loki.
Loki.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just feels like someone somewhere wanted to see what would happen if Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man all had a fight.
It's
just like Civil War to me. It just feels too fan servicey for me to take seriously.
Although it's better than that thing in Civil War, though, because
I agree with that.
Because the Civil War thing is just everything that sets that up is so goddamn ridiculous.
Yeah, this at least has a reason. Like Thor wants to get Loki the fuck out of there, and these guys are in his way.
I agree.
And Cap and Tony don't like each other. Basically,
I'm just saying, use your words, people. Use your words.
Well, I think. No, you're right. I think somebody. It may be Tony that tries to say like, "Hey, we're all good. We just need your guy back." right? It's
Something
all
like
it's all
that.
Loki because he wants to take him back to Asgard.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't let you do that. But then,
Yeah.
No.
It's cool.
I think
It's cool looking.
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool when Spider-Man stops the Winter Soldier's arm in Civil War and says, "You have a metal arm." That's awesome. Doesn't mean I like that movie.
Where do you stand on Infinity War these days?
I'm in a really frustrating place.
Uh-huh.
I love it. I like it more than I did when I saw it in the theater.
Me too.
But I still struggle to, now that I know what comes next, to keep it there. I don't get the same pleasure out of watching it now, even though I respect it more.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Totally get that.
So I will vote Avengers. But it's like 1A and 1B to me. I like them both a whole lot.
I think we should get a petition going right now to get them to remake Endgame.
Well, you said that Endgame slightly undercuts your enjoyment of Infinity War.
It does, right? And the Endgame doesn't happen without Infinity War, so you can't really, take Infinity War completely out of the equation. I think this was another Discord discussion at one point. Because a lot of the guys on there are like, no, this is just continuation of the story, and it makes total sense, and I understand that. I think I just don't like the way Endgame goes about its business. We all knew that Infinity War was going to have to be undone some way.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that we saw, we knew even when we watched Infinity War that these guys weren't going to be gone forever. And like a lot of stuff that happened in the movie was going to have to be undone. I just don't like the way they went about it. Just don't like the whole idea of, inventing time travel in one day.
Yeah, I wonder what they would have changed, because didn't you say, Jeremy, that the Russo brothers wish they hadn't shot them back to back?
That was the one regret they said they had, is that they wish they hadn't shot them back to back.
I wonder what they would have done differently.
I do too.
Or if they would have done it.
I think they would have thought out a lot of these. I think we still want to see Cap versus Cap, and we still want to see Stark and his dad and all this stuff, but maybe just not the way they went about it.
Yeah.
And I don't, and like I said, it would take me months probably to try to figure out one. I mean, I can only imagine what pressures those guys are under when they're making movies. Like, we got to have this shit by next year, guys. Better start on it.
Yeah. Well, it feels like we'll talk about Far From Home in a little while, but it feels like they had a little bit of the same issues with Far From Home as far as explaining what happened and how it happened and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Infinity War, to me, because it looks so fucking good and everything, you're right, like it's next level. In fact, they probably spent so much time on that was the expense of Black Panther's effects. They probably were pouring everything
At this point,
into that.
though, Disney has so much money that
I know, you always hear all these stories about like how these guys are overworked and the effects, the VFX guys.
I guess you keep having that much money when you don't when you don't like go full balls to the wall.
Yeah. I have, it's not nearly as bad, but I have the same issue with Infinity War that I do with Passengers, in that I love watching it, but I don't know if I love the movie.
I can see that.
So I think Avengers is up there with Iron Man as one of the most perfect MCU movies. So I'm going to vote for Avengers, the OG.
All right.
Avengers.
Original Avengers will move on to the final four.
We just snapped Thanos out of existence.
That's right.
We did.
Erased from existence.
Although it is at the end of Avengers where we first see Thanos.
That's true.
It takes for fucking ever for him to do a.
He's got the space chair, right?
Well,
yeah.
he was a long way away, Chris. He was on the other side of the galaxy.
Man, this guy, he was on the other side of the galaxy, which we found out is not hard to traverse.
You just got to go through the honeycomb thing.
Right, you gotta go through the honeycomb thing. So yeah, on to our final matchup of the day. We have Batman Begins versus Spider-Man Homecoming.
I tell you what,
Barrett was about to leave the
I didn't
studio.
know what was going on there.
like how Endgame made me appreciate Infinity War more. Far From Home
made you
me appreciate Homecoming more. And I really like Far From Home. But Homecoming Far From Home doesn't have the emotional beats that Homecoming does.
We'll talk about Far From Home later. But
Did you have the same experience?
Yes.
Yep.
In fact, yes. I'll tell you more in a minute. So Homecoming, I'm on record as saying, is my favorite MCU movie. It is not what I would call the best. I think that still goes to Iron Man, which is sadly not in the tournament anymore, and it's my fault. It's Tom Holland is so good. I have so many druthers. I'd rather he not have an Iron Man suit with the computerized voice.
That's been bugging me a lot more the more that I watch it. And I'm like, I've probably watched it 20 times at this point. But you're right. You can argue that the most fun stuff that he does is outside of the suit.
Well, and again, maybe it's impossible to talk about this right now without including some Far From Home talk, but Far From Home goes to great lengths to show that Peter is a gadget maker and a tinkerer. And I'm like, then why did you give him a Tony suit? And he could have made that himself. If now you want to make him a gadget maker. But anyway, no, I think everybody in Homecoming is cast perfectly, from Ned to Michael Keaton to the love interest girl to Zendaya. I'll never get it right. To the teacher.
Feels like it should be Zendaya, though, right?
It really
does. I saw that sin in Dumbo where you counted off Michael Keaton as Batman and then Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and then you circle back to Michael Keaton and Birdman and Vulture. It's in there like 3 different times.
It's one of my favorite sins. The way that I don't even know who did the footage, but the way they put the footage for every single
back
day.
to Michael Keaton. Back to Michael Keaton. Oh, it was because Colin Farrell was in there too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bullseye, and I called him whatever his name was. From Miami Vice.
Oh,
Miami
God.
Heat. You were about to say.
Oh my God. Yeah. So what's Homecoming going up against?
Batman Begins.
Also on
another movie I
Netflix.
love.
Yeah. Batman Begins is one of your best origin stories.
Yeah.
And it grounded the Batman story into some reality. That's what the thing is about these Nolan ventures into the DC universe, is that they're more grounded in reality. He's trying to make these more human than what your typical comic book movie is. And I guess, you look at the cast of Marvel guys and women and everything, those are real people too, but it's a sort of a different hyper realized version of humans. Because, Stark is a mad billionaire. You have Captain America as like this, insanely 100% good person.
And then you have magic. You have gods and stuff like that. In the trilogy, everything is within the scope of humanity. Joker is a super genius at chaos, but he's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Batman is a human being. Even Bane is a juiced up human being. So Ra's al Ghul is a human being.
Well, and that's something that started to fuck with me a little bit once they started trying to make the DCEU, is that we'd watched 3 Batman movies that had grounded everything in reality, and then we went to this one spot where it's like, and I know it's in the DC universe. It's not like they couldn't. It's not like it's wrong for them to do this, but now once you introduce Superman and Wonder Woman and all these completely gods and everything, and it takes you out of that stuff that you sort of established, even though it's not a part of the DCEU.
Mm-hmm.
It always felt weird to me once they started putting actual superhumans.
Yeah, because isn't it in Batman Begins where you'll see the aftermath of him kicking ass? I know it's more so in The Dark Knight, but you'll see the bruises on him, on his back and all that shit, and he'll drink his Powerade or whatever it is in the morning. But Batman Begins starts to show you that there's a physical toll being taken, even though the guy is ripped as hell.
Mm-hmm.
He still is human, and it hurts when he gets kicked.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big difference, and I think that's a very strong argument for keeping Batman separate from the rest of the DCEU.
Yes,
because he's the only straight up human who is not a god, alien, or have magical powers. Mm-hmm. He's human. Mm-hmm. He doesn't fit even in Justice League, which I've some reason was watching part of the other day. When he shows up in that scene in Grant Park or wherever in Chicago, I'm like, the fuck are you gonna do?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's like 4 nuclear awesome dudes that just got their ass beat by him. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
And of course he does nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets
And
his
so
ass
I
thrown.
think maybe you take this Matt Reeves Batman, you just go off and Batman has a universe, and then you start the DCEU, you bring in a Flash movie, a Green Lantern movie, a new Superman, Wonder Woman keeps going, you do that thing there. If you absolutely have to have a cinematic universe, and it kind of fucking seems like you do it that way.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's what breaks,
Yeah.
is when you include Batman with that shit.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we have 2 very contrasting movies here. Batman Begins is very like serious and dour and all that, and then Spider-Man Homecoming is happy and exciting and
Let's go.
funny and everything. I think they have equally bad action scenes.
Oh, what are the big action scenes in Batman Begins?
That fucking tram scene at the end is kind of a nightmare.
That is, but I mean, the stuff in the League of Shadows where he has to fight his way out.
Oh,
I
that's
think
cool.
That's, really
That's
good.
cool, but no, when he's fighting in the Narrows at night and he's fighting the League of Shadows ninjas, that bullshit might as well be black screen. I can't see what he's doing. When he like flies in at him after they're standing there on that bridge and he like comes in out of nowhere and like beats a bunch of ass, that's all a blur.
I think it's supposed to be, though.
Well, okay.
But you're right. I mean, it's just a decision. It's the same thing as Homecoming. It's supposed to be dark and in an invisible plane, but it doesn't make it good.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Do we have the Papa Wayne and Mama Wayne's death in this one?
In Batman Begins?
Yeah. Does that start the movie?
Yeah, because
I get so confused. There's so many of these.
Because
fucking things.
this one, I believe that's the one. This is the. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you see him riding the train with his dad, and his dad's explaining why the train is going to help Gotham.
Right.
And then they go to the play, and there's bats on stage in the play, and Bruce gets scared.
they
and
leave
have to
early.
leave.
That's right. That's right.
They leave
Okay.
early.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I was about to go into this thing, but then I think the Zack Snyder one popped into my head.
No, that's the one that I think about.
Yeah, because that's the one where like pearls are slow motion.
Yeah.
and
You see,
everything.
like the bullet going.
Yeah, all that, and that's what popped in my head, and I was like, "Wait a minute, no, that's the Zack Snyder." But I do know, yeah, the Nolan makes it even more tragic because he is responsible for them leaving early and running into
That's
that,
right.
into that into the alleyway and everything, and Linus Roach is done.
Yep.
Linus Roach.
Linus Roach. I was trying to think of that dude's name.
Yeah,
Where's he been?
I don't know. I think he still does a lot of stuff. It's just that it may not be in the mega popular realm or anything.
He ran out of
on,
Batman's.
He's probably on Downton Abbey or something.
Yeah, he probably is. He's probably like still on ER, so like something. It's just, like not that ER is still on or that he ever was on it.
ER season 27.
Juliana
Margulies is back.
He was in Mandy.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember him in Mandy. I think he was the bad guy in Mandy. Actually, he was the bad guy in Mandy. So yeah, what are we gonna pick here? I'm gonna go with Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think it's the funner movie. I would prefer watching this over Batman Begins.
You know what I love about Spider-Man: Homecoming is that we had talked about a long time ago that it would be cool to see Spider-Man outside of New York, outside of Queens, right? And this movie does that just for a short period of time. Well, a decent period of time. He's in Maryland, and then he's in D.C., and then it takes him back home. And I think that's perfect, and especially knowing what I know from Far From Home. Like, I think that's the perfect amount of him in the neighborhood and him outside of it. This is a landslide for me. This is Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Ooh, you put all the... Wait, there's no pressure.
Yeah.
I was going to vote for Spider-Man: Homecoming anyway.
Yep.
And my vote still counts, even if it doesn't.
Nice.
I can't wait to talk about Far From Home here in a little bit, though.
Me too.
Do we have any more votes, or is that it?
That's it. Spider-Man: Homecoming will go up against the Avengers.
So we have DC,
So we'll
Marvel.
So we will have a final that is DC versus Marvel.
We will.
That's fucking awesome.
We did exactly what we wanted to do with this thing. So yeah, exciting Final Four. That's going to be some tough pickings.
Yeah, no
all
kidding.
of that.
You could literally see any of these four winning.
Yeah.
Or I could, at least.
Yeah, I definitely could.
I could even see History of Violence coming from behind to win.
Right. Out of nowhere.
It took me a second to process.
Who do you vote between Avengers and Spider-Man Homecoming? History of Violence.
Yeah. It's like an airplane where like everybody who ate the fish got sick, and they go and they tell Leslie Nielsen is like everybody who ate the fish, they had choice of fish or whatever, it was chicken, and everybody who ate the fish is sick now, and he goes, yes, I remember, I had the lasagna. Okay, guys, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
Yeah, BetterHelp, man. The last time that we talked about this, I was a little bit like hesitant because I ain't never done it before. I ain't never done the therapy before on that side of it, and so I had my first session recently, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
It was awesome. It's weird because I talk so much on SinCast, but I don't like talking about myself all that much unless it's through stories. Like, I was here, and these other people were doing that and all that. So during the therapy session, I relayed a story about, like, a former patient that I had and stuff like that, instead of actually talking about what's going on in my life and things like that. And my therapist, Anne, who is fantastic, she kind of guided me back towards, what are your goals for this? Like, how are we going to reach those? What do you want to get out of this? And I've never had anybody talk to me like that before, because she knows what she's doing. She used to do like Fort Campbell stuff. Like, she used to counsel soldiers.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, all right, let's talk about what's really going on there. Now, we didn't get into super deep stuff, and I'm a little bit scared, honestly, to get into super deep stuff. But even going through like the first, you could say, surface level things, she was giving me tips that are common sense, but that I don't think about. And so I've had a very, very good experience so far. The site is fantastic. They have a counseling room that you go to. So you get an email 30 minutes before your session, and it says, Barrett, you're almost ready to have your counseling session here. Click here to go to your room. Go to your counseling room. And there, it's got all the messages that you and your therapist have had. It's got all the scheduled appointments. And then it says your session is live, and your therapist contacts you first to make sure that you're ready. You say yes, and she did the video series.
Awesome.
Video bandwidth was perfect. Didn't have any lags. Could hear her very, very well. It was like going to an office. She was in her office, basically, and communicated as well as we could communicate.
Yeah.
So the service itself at BetterHelp is kind of blowing my mind right now.
Yeah.
It's something that I think I should have done a long time ago.
Well, and I'm a big fan of therapy, and one thing I always tell new married couples that I meet is go to marriage counseling, even if you think you're doing good. Not that pre-marriage counseling stuff that's mostly BS. I'm talking the real stuff.
It's not all BS.
So, like, a couple years into our marriage, my wife and I weren't communicating very well. We go to a marriage counselor. She's like, "Do you guys love each other?" And we're like, "Yes." And then she starts breaking down. At the end of the 12 weeks, it was like, "Oh, we both are self-conscious and don't want to feel alone and abandoned by the other one. We just show it different ways. But we really have the same base wants and needs." And it feels like common sense, but it's not.
I know,
you need a professional
that's the craziest thing.
to walk you through it the right way. And I'm thrilled. I can't wait to hear more about your adventure. I hope our listeners will check it out. We do have a link, right?
Yeah, it's betterhelp.com/SinCast, not CinemaSins. BetterHelp.com/SinCast. I'll spell BetterHelp just so everybody understands what's going on. BETTER help HELP. So go to that link. You're going to get 10% off your first month. This service is affordable. This service is easy to work with. They also have financial assistance. If you're having trouble paying, just let them know and see if you can get something done. It is well worth it so far. I've only heard good things, and I've only experienced good things. Now, I'm not expecting this to go super smooth on my end. Sure. And I'm preparing myself to really get in there and see what's going on. But so far, it's just been a very welcoming and very user-friendly space, and I can't recommend it enough, honestly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we got some recommends and warns.
Totes amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for best movie ever made.
Yeah. Can I start?
Go for it.
Euphoria.
Euphoria.
The last time on this podcast that we talked about it, it was before any of us had seen it. It was last week's episode. And we were talking about all the dicks.
Right.
And that was all that we knew about it. We said, I think I said something like, I think this Zendaya probably has some chops. Maybe this will be good. I'll watch it just because, it'd be titillating and stuff like that. But I kind of expected decent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now 5 episodes in of an 8-episode first season. Is it supposed to be 8 episodes?
No idea, but
It's
I know
already been renewed for season 2.
Right. And I am absolutely transfixed by this show on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's genius. I think it's genius writing. I think it's genius acting across the board. I think it's genius cinematography.
Yeah.
And just from conception to execution, this is one of the most mesmerizing shows I have ever seen.
Did you, in episode 4, where they're going around the carnival, did you get a Paul Thomas Anderson vibe?
Very much.
From that. It wasn't him. It was Levinson,
Sam Levinson.
Sam Levinson who did it. But all through it, the music and all the zooms.
Fucking tracking shot was amazing.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I was sitting there going, I don't think PTA did this one. I don't think he did that, but I would not be shocked at the end of this episode, Paul Thomas Anderson's name shows up, and it was Sam Levinson.
You know who directed episode 5? It was Jennifer Morrison.
Yeah, Jennifer Morrison.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that she had started dabbling in directing.
I didn't either.
That one, that one took me by surprise.
Zendaya, did I say it right?
Yes.
I said to Barrett at lunch a couple weeks ago, how did she get famous for modeling before she got famous for acting? She is that good. I think she's a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, everybody's good. I just last night sold me completely on the fact that Eric Dane is doing something really cool here. I think.
How do you mean?
Acting-wise. You don't like
How do you
his
mean?
acting?
No. I'm interested in that comment. How do you mean? Doing
He's
something
showing,
cool.
He's showing me a lot more nuance than I expected from his role, from his character.
I'm so glad you said that, because nobody in this show, no character, is one thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's set up for Eric Dane to be one thing. It's not that simple. It's set up for his son to be one thing, and it ain't that simple. He's probably the most he's not really one-dimensional. Even though he is an asshole, he's not a one-dimensional asshole.
We've seen this father a million times, right?
Yes.
This type of father, but there's not. It's not just it's not like Chris Cooper in American Beauty, where
exactly,
it's just, where it's
exactly. The Rue is not just a drug addict. The woman or the girl in transition isn't a wreck. She's the most stable person there is.
Mm-hmm.
The drug dealer,
yes, in the moment.
in the moment, yes, no, but again, she's got room to grow too. She's not just one thing.
Well, I don't think you're right. I just don't think you can call somebody who does a bunch of one-night stands with dudes in hotel rooms stable.
I'm saying relatively.
Right.
To
No,
the
I
rest
agree.
of
I
the
agree. I just wanted to
cast.
throw that caveat out there and she is the most, well, she knows herself the best, perhaps.
She does, and she reacts honestly to news that she gets, especially in this most recent episode. The obese girl is not just cracking jokes or smart. She's got different things happening.
Mm-hmm.
I bet we'll come back and see the alcoholic mom who's all boozy and on wine and all that stuff. She's got some nuance to her. The preppy hot chick that's married to that's dating the jock.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing straightforward about her. There's a lot going on with her.
Yeah, man.
I can't even wrap my head around this show. It's got so many things going on.
It is it's mesmerizing. It is also, if you haven't watched it and you're thinking of watching it based on our recommendation, you need to know it's a hard watch in terms of the drug use, the sex, and it's about as, I think if it was a movie, it would struggle to get an R rating.
Oh, there's no fucking way it would get an R rating.
And I hope because of that and all the topics that I've said this in a couple tweets, I hope it's going somewhere. I hope it's not just titillating for the sake of being titillating.
See, I ain't titillated. I ain't titillated by this at all.
Well, no,
I'm not trying to undercut your argument, but I'm just saying that
maybe titillating is the wrong word.
Okay.
Dirty. It feels like it's wallowing in excess.
It's unedited. I mean, aren't we all wallowing in excess? Like, you can access any of that shit anytime, anywhere. We're just talking about Reddit porn that just like entered my life unexpectedly.
But okay, but this concentrated all in one community, this many kids going in this many different extremes.
Do you remember how crazy your hormones were when you were a teenager?
Yes.
And put it in this environment where everything is so accessible. Drugs, sex,
hang on.
all that.
I have to step back and have a whole other conversation if you're saying that high school as this show presents it is what high school is like today.
I think it is maximized. I think it's inflated.
Then it needs to be inflating it for a reason. That's all I'm saying.
I see what you mean.
If you end without saying anything, then all you did was show as many dicks as you could just to get people talking about your show.
It ain't about the dicks, though. It's about Rue's journey. You can see
it is about Rue's journey, but every episode has dicks.
Ooh, so?
I'm just saying you can't say it's not about the dicks.
I see a dick at least once every day.
I am not going to have this
I'll tell you
argument.
what's weird. I don't. No, I'm just kidding.
All I'm saying is I'm transfixed. I love it. I can't stop watching. If it ends like Requiem for a Dream does, where it's just like, hey, drugs are bad, life sucks, I'm going to be massively disappointed.
Well,
I see.
I think every TV show has this sort of hyper-realized sort of thing that they have to do. It has to be this way, or else things seem too normal. We already know what high school can be like. If you tone down this show any, then it just becomes what's my so-called life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think every show that does this type of thing, like they have to kind of extend it to a darkness that, or else it's just a normal show at that point. And I know that it's not as real. It's not something that's just happening, but I think these characters are happening, maybe not all at once in one place, but these characters are happening.
I think, yes. I think you could take any one of these characters and convince me someone like that exists in the real world. Mm-hmm. I would struggle to believe they all do in such close proximity with each other. And I feel like you can shock because you want to make a point afterwards,
mm-hmm.
or you can shock because that's all you've got. And I can't know what this show has until it's done.
I see what you're saying. For me, like, it's weird in the moment, I guess, because just what I said, like, we're just kind of constantly bombarded by, references to drugs and sex and stuff like that. But like, so I was reading something and they were saying how shocked they were about the scene where dude was masturbating in front of the girl who's become a cam girl. And I was like, I had to mentally go back to that. And I was like, what's weird about that is I was thinking more about her transformation and like where she is as a character than I was thinking about him jerking off. Like, I suppose I should be thinking more about the jerking off, but I was...
Well, there's your cold open.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah.
I suppose I should be thinking more about the jerking off.
But I was thinking about the girl.
But how many, let me ask you this, HBO or anywhere else, how many other shows have shown you a guy jerking his dick off?
They have not.
Okay,
and
so the first show that does that,
mm-hmm.
I hope it has more to say than just, I showed you that dick.
Okay, what I'm saying is I think it's already said enough to justify
fair
whatever
enough.
titillation.
Fair enough. I think a couple characters' plot lines need to see resolution before I can know for sure.
I agree.
I think that the thing about the dick showing in this show is that it may have nothing other than the artificial, let's make a thing a balance for once.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see women all the time. The fact, the first episode, it's all the women getting naked in that, except for Zendaya and whatever. But like everybody, it's all female nudity, like we've always seen, right? And I agree, it should be fucking equalized, man.
Sure.
Like I've never.
You're holding.
Yeah.
That's a very tiny dick.
That's right. That's how I measure dicks. Between my thumb and forefinger.
No, I completely agree with that. I just maybe I'm misarticulating. Like Zendaya's character in particular. Where they choose to take her will tell me a lot about the show's intentions.
I do think there might be some sort of larger plot involved that we're not in on yet, because there's still a lot with this boyfriend and her and the girlfriend and everything that there seems to be a grander scheme going on, like an almost Wild Things-ish thing going on.
It could be because they've set Eric Dane's character up to be this godlike status in this city. And that can't not play a role, especially the secrets that he has. And I don't think this is in the first episode, so I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that he likes having sex with men. And he records it and all that stuff. And the interesting part of this show is that that's a secret that could potentially bring him down.
Yep.
Could potentially ruin everything, even though his son already knows about it.
Yep.
The funny thing, he says in the 5th episode here, he's like, do you think that me keeping this secret has caused a detrimental effect to my family? And, the guy that's with him is just like, I don't know. Yeah, let's fuck and all that stuff. But it wouldn't be a big deal. Nate comes out. It's probably not going to be a big deal to anybody in the show in his generation. Right? So the fact that he's struggling so hard to cover all this stuff up when the generation below is just like, fuck, we don't care, man. Like, be gay, be trans, be straight, be whatever, and nobody really gives a shit.
Well,
it's such a big dichotomy.
That is one kind of thing that's kind of weird about this show is how like understanding everybody is of everything. There's not any parents in here that seem to be like, what, really?
Even Rue's mom is like, well, just go slow.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna date Jules, just go slow. And that's cool.
It is cool. And I think they've been through so much, particularly her.
Especially, yeah.
That this ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care who you date.
And it could be,
as long as it's not a drug dealer.
It could be perhaps that it's so cliche at this point to have the parents who are like, that let's just go away from that. Let's make these parents modern and not worry about the whatever. But in that same way, if nobody cares about anything, then nobody's going to care about the Eric Dane shit either.
But he doesn't think that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, and they're, because he's created this whole character for himself within the show, that I think anything that undercuts that would potentially ruin him, just from an outside perspective. He's building this whole city, apparently.
When that girl started walking down the school hallway in her like harness thing, and that Billie Eilish song came on.
Oh,
I was like, this show and Billie Eilish were made for each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She had her music in every single episode. It fits perfect.
Oh my god.
I love it. I would still recommend it, but know that it's a hard R-rated visual content. But I hope and I think it's got some interesting stuff to say about mental health and sexuality and addiction.
Let me touch on that real quick. So there, in this most recent episode, I think it was the most recent episode, or maybe it was episode 4, where Jules goes to a psychiatric hospital.
Isn't it her flashback?
Yeah, it's Zendaya telling her story, which I think is a very cool plot device, by the way, is... how we feel about narration overall, but I think it's perfectly used here.
Yeah.
Where Zendaya's telling everybody's story. Like, he grew up like this.
A massive fan theory that people online think she's dead.
Yes. And
which would be a little weird that
you're going to really have to do some acrobatics to...
Well, just that she's narrating this from the future.
Right.
And that's how she knows all the details that she's showing us.
Yeah.
By the end, she will have died. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Not that she is already dead.
Correct.
And people are imagining her everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
Jules goes to a psychiatric hospital because I guess her parents, or her mom, she doesn't know what to do with her because she's born a boy and she starts to transition to be a girl.
Although that episode, I was actually wondering if she was taken to the hospital because of that reason. Because
she's also depressed.
Because it's right after that she's like taking her to the transition doctor and all that. And I don't know if that's the proper term, but like the doctor that's going to help her with the transition, right? Isn't that in that same episode where
Yes.
where after she's out of the psych hospital, she goes to that. And,
Right. But it later says that, mom couldn't handle it, so that's when she left.
Oh, mom's gone. Okay.
Mom's gone, and that's why she's only with Dad, who's a great character in his own right.
Yeah.
But it has once Jules gets to the hospital, I think there was some depression actually beforehand. So you're absolutely right. It becomes a very honest portrait of psychiatric hospital life. Like, I've never seen a realistic portrayal of a psych hospital. I worked in one for years, and there's shit that goes on. There's mistakes that are made. There's one orderly that doesn't do his job because he has some sort of empathy for her and that kind of thing. And she comes out and says, as a self-harmer would do, says, I did something stupid immediately. She doesn't want to cover it up or anything like that. That happens all the time. So it's just a great portrayal of it. And it's also got a very absurdly comic moment where she's in a group and she's got mitts on to stop her from self-harming. And she's like, well, I've tried different psychiatrists. I've been depressed all my life, but these mitts will help.
I don't want to say too much about episode 5 because if you haven't seen the show, that would be spoilery. But the girl who plays Maddie, this was the episode that was all about her, her backstory, and she put me through the ringer.
Yes, she did.
By the end of that episode, that girl has no options. Like,
no,
I feel like that way about a lot of the people on this show, that they're going to find themselves in optionless situations. But I feel like she didn't even know where she was until this episode, and now she realizes the place she's in and she can't get out of it.
Yeah,
but I thought that actress did a great job.
Oh, she had one of the most raw moments in the
police
jail
station.
cell.
Oh my God, it wrecked me. It wrecked me because it felt like assault.
It did. It did. And you could tell, that's another real character. You could tell that the policewoman or the detective didn't really want to go there.
Right.
She tried everything.
Yeah.
She's like, I need to get this evidence.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, I've never seen a show like this.
No, I haven't either. It's taking all kinds of risks. It's very daring. I just hope we're not exploiting some of these issues for shock factor.
Yeah. There's an emotional payoff with almost every episode. The drug dealers are fantastic.
Yeah, especially the kid.
The kid is fucking great. But that is funny. The drug dealers are hilarious and funny. I told Jeremy this, one of my favorite moments is where Rue comes out of rehab and she goes to the drug dealer Fez, and he's like, oh, well, what's going on? She's like, well, I gave my life to Jesus Christ. And he's like, word, that's what's up. But and it's going to take a turn here. The end of, I believe it's episode 3, where Rue wants to get drugs from him and he turns her down.
Ugh.
Talk about a fucking raw scene, man.
Yeah.
That will absolutely eviscerate you. So I think what I get, at least from this show, is every episode there is an emotional resolution or a plot through thread that keeps me interested. And even if it comes to an underwhelming conclusion, I think it's already paid off enough.
Okay.
I think the stuff that's lurid is the stuff that draws you in, that just sort of like it's there to get you to be interested in this show about things that are really tough to talk about. And it's just one of those things that TV shows I unfortunately, I guess, or have to do to keep your interest. Or like I said, it becomes My So-Called Life. And My So-Called Life was great.
For a season.
Yeah. But,
Well, and ironically, at its time, was controversial for a lot of the same reasons that Euphoria is, in terms of such serious issues.
A lot of dicks
being portrayed by
So
15-year-olds.
So many dicks.
All
God.
the dick shots.
Uh-huh.
What was that, like UPN or the
By the
CW?
way, that Eric Dane shot, that was a stunt dick. I don't know if you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually told the production.
He didn't want to go full.
No, he said he would do it.
Oh, yeah?
But they thought they thought the shot would be better if they went ahead and went with the stunt cock.
They didn't like his dick.
I don't know what that maybe, it was like a George Clooney singing an "Oh Brother" kind of thing. Like, well, let's see it. Oh, Oh God, no! We just liked it.
No, I'm ready. Let's shoot it now.
I'm here to shoot the scene. It's my big dick.
Here, just use this. Here, just
They don't call
Put
me
it away.
McSteamy for nothing.
Yep. It's very true.
Holy Moses!
I'm sorry to hijack the entire thing there for a while, but
No, you clearly
I
wanted
love
to talk
that
about
show
that
so
shit.
much.
Yeah. We're not done with Zendaya either. We're
That's right.
going to be talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. Not a mini pod, but you can call it a mini pod inside the maxi pod if you want to. We will be sort of reviewing this with spoilers and all that. We'll warn you about the spoilers and everything. I saw this movie day after opening, I believe, and I was in Vegas and I experienced the first aftershocks of an earthquake.
Oh wow!
That's crazy.
I did not know it was that until I looked at my email afterwards, and Jeremy was like, "Did you experience the earthquake?" And I was like, "Yes, I did," but I did not know what that was.
Did you think it was just like a rumble from
Because it was so small. I was in the back row, and our chairs, the seats were just kind of like moving. Like as if someone might have been like tapping their foot or something, and all the seats were connected in some way. So I turned the one girl who was like the seat down, and she's like, "Are you shaking?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm shaking. I don't know what's going on." And then it was done, and it never happened again. And then later on, felt a really big one.
Really?
The next day.
Oh, the next day.
Yeah, the next day was the bit really. I was in the main event of the World Series of Poker, and it was just like everybody just it wasn't like shake everything, but the chandeliers were all like swaying.
Did
back
the chips fall all over the place?
Trying to think if I don't
sure
think
everybody
really
liked
wasn't
cards.
it wasn't really like that. Like I sat through it going, oh well, that's a thing. There were people who got up and ran out and basically said, you want us to keep playing, fuck you. And I agree with that sentiment. I don't know why they were so intent on trying to keep us.
Earthquakes are weird, man, because that one you felt the second day was, I think, a 7.1.
Yeah.
But it depends on where they happen. Because I was like, 7.1, that sounds big. What was that San Francisco one from during the World Series that I remember in 89? And it was a 6.9.
Yeah.
But because of where it happened, it was destruction everywhere.
Yeah.
It just fucking scary, man.
But yeah, saw this in Vegas, and you know what? I don't hearing the slight things that I've heard you guys say during this podcast, I get the sense that I liked this more than you guys did. But I don't know.
I liked it. I did. I didn't like it as much as Homecoming. I've already said that. And the more I think about it, the more I like aspects of it. I love Jake Gyllenhaal's character. I love the sequence of, we'll talk about it in spoilers, a sequence between he and Spider-Man that's just magically done, quote unquote. I like all the characters. It's weird seeing Zendaya in this after watching so much Euphoria.
Yeah.
It's a jolt.
It really is, because she is an understated character, like a sarcastic character in Homecoming, and then mostly through this. But when she kind of softens up and she becomes like girly girl, it's weird.
Yeah.
But I did like it. I think it suffers, at least for me, of comparing it too much to Homecoming, and then they do something to explain the snap and unsnap that I did not like at all.
Yeah. That was yada yada, wasn't it? That's one of the biggest yada yada things I've ever seen.
Yep.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I imagine in spoiler talk you'll be able to say more words.
I think we can call it the blip. How they explain it as the blip.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they just yada yada all of it.
Exactly.
They turned it into a joke.
Yeah.
And like, we're not going to explain that.
Remember all that destruction?
Yeah.
The Mets were gone. Like,
Right,
everything was...
Yeah.
Okay, so I liked it. I think I tweeted that I had a blast, but I probably didn't like it as much as Homecoming. Not only am I ready to say I didn't like it as much as Homecoming, I like it a little less today than I did the day I saw it.
I can see that.
There are a few things I'll get into in spoiler that I think are A++. One of them is that scene you were just talking about. And one is a running gag that nearly had me in tears. But the whole of it didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there are two scenes in the credits. They both kind of massively impact the plot. And I'm not super down for that.
Yeah.
Because you've spent 10 years training me that's either going to be a teaser or a joke.
Mm-hmm.
But now in both of them in this movie, it's kind of crucial.
It is, but the last one in particular.
Yes.
The last one, I think, and I think I told you this, like, I think they were subverting expectations, and I think they played on that to make a joke. I think that last one was a big old joke. Now, I've read an interview with the director who referenced that last thing. He didn't say one way or another if it was a joke or super, super important, but I thought of it as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
That they were teasing this big, huge plot development going forward, but it turned out to be nothing.
Really?
Yes. That's how I saw it.
Okay. Well, if the next MCU movie doesn't even address that, then we'll know you were right.
Mm-hmm.
I did think the score was great. I'm falling even more in love with Giacchino's specific Spider-Man theme, even though all the TV commercials for all the products are using his version of that 60s cartoon.
Is it the...
Yeah. By the way, I read the other day that this was the most marketed movie ever in terms of the money spent on marketing partnerships, like Doritos and pizza boxes and like
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, no movie has ever spent more money. I think they said $280 million worth of
Jesus.
Partnerships.
Well, when you know you're going to make $1 billion, what's $280 million?
There you go. Should we get into spoilers? Do we have any?
What did you think overall of it?
I really liked it. I think it takes a while to get started.
It does.
So that's one knock against it. I like this. I like this plot though. I really like this plot. It's ridiculous, but I love it. And it has, is it spoilery to say it has shades of Iron Man 3 in it, but I think executed better.
No, I got it.
That's fair. I don't think that's spoilery.
Yeah.
But I also think you're right.
Yeah. I think this is, at first I was like, I don't know about this, but once it gets to it's the crux of everything, I was like, oh, I really like this movie now, and I like everything after. Once the main turning point happens in this movie, I was all in on it.
Yeah, and I could see it, and I mentioned this earlier, but I don't like that they took them out of the U.S. really, like the entire time, except for the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want at least a little bit of friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, even if it's in a more global thing.
It is funny. Tom Holland was talking about how, he's actually from the UK, right? Mm-hmm. So like the first movie was Homecoming, and he's not American. Then he's Far From Home, but he's actually in his backyard.
Yeah, he's in London by the end of it.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
He was delightful in that chef show episode. By the way.
Yeah, he was.
I may need to remind you.
You may.
He was starstruck by Roy Choi and even Jon Favreau, which is funny because they spent so much time together in this movie.
Huh.
Good stuff. Overall grades?
I'm gonna give this a B+.
I'd give it straight up B. It's good. I think I'm gonna enjoy it more the next time.
Yeah, me too. Straight up B.
Yeah.
I bet next time I watch it on home video, it'll be a B+, but I don't think it's gonna get to Homecoming levels.
What would you give Homecoming?
A-, maybe.
Oh yeah. Even though you love it.
Yeah, because I give honest grades, baby. I'm an honest grader. Let's talk spoilers, please.
No spoilers!
Kevin Spacey is Kaiser Soze.
Miss Luke's father is actually Darth Vader. She's the sister and the daughter. They just
No. I'm reading the books.
Do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to talk spoilers to talk about this movie, because the whole setup for this thing is this is what. So we're gonna get to this reveal here in a minute, but like when you're first watching this and you don't know that there is a reveal going on, it's like, okay, god damn it, the fucking space-time continuum bullshit, fucking nonsense.
Oh, the multiverse thing.
Yeah, multiverse. He's coming out of fucking. I do like the idea though that they set up is that yes, anything is believable at this point.
Sure.
And they make that to where, like now. One thing I wish the movie had done was that Fury was in on it knew about it the whole time because he's so paranoid and but then they throw off a joke where he's like, oh, he was totally fooled the whole time towards the end. But yes, when it is revealed that the Mysterio character was a disgruntled Tony Stark employee and he's taken his technology, he's kind of like Riddler and Batman Forever, right? He has this thing that he thinks is going to make a lot of money. The boss says, no, that's evil. You're evil. and fires him. And then there's like, they go to like these little touches where like the guy that Jeff Bridges is yelling at in Iron Man is part of this plan too. Tony built this in a cave, and all.
It is the most expositional toast in all of cinematic history.
It is. And we're going to send the fuck out of that. But I've got to say, Jake Gyllenhaal's performance during that whole thing is so fun.
He's so good.
He's just like, and guys, we did that. It's like, this is something they wouldn't talk about at all. Like I
got three amigos. Like, remember when we rolled the horses?
Yeah.
Trimmed the hedges. And together we did
we raped the horses. And rode off on the
women. But yeah, it sets up this whole thing where like, yeah, we're ready to believe anything. And he's got all these little drones that shoot holograms everywhere that make it look like, yeah, there's some shit going down. Also holograms that cause damage too.
Well, they shoot missiles to cause. See, actually, one of my biggest problems with this movie is that he could accomplish his illusions with drones. Like, that's stupid. I almost wish he had like some kind of Doctor Strange charm around his neck or something that could explain, because the movie's actually saying drones shoot the holograms and other drones are shooting missiles to blow up things to make it look like real shit is actually happening here. I don't buy that for a second. I'm willing to overlook it because the action scenes are actually pretty cool.
Really?
I liked the fight with the waterman in Venice. That one was the most thrilling to me.
Yeah.
But I did the drones thing. I'm not buying.
But it's a Scooby-Doo type thing.
Yeah,
right?
a little bit.
Like you watch episodes of Scooby-Doo and you're like, oh yeah, the bad guy shot holograms the whole time, and you're like, wait a minute, how do they make it go across an entire fucking like hallway? And
okay, so for instance is the best scene in the movie is that like. Hallucination fight between Mysterio and Spider-Man. But as soon as it's done, it's amazing. It's awesome. But as soon as it's done, my brain was like, he had to have created all those holograms in advance.
Yeah.
And he lured Spidey to that like half-built office building. He had to have known how the fight was going to go in order to enact I feel like there's a way more omnipotence there that we just yada-yada'd over. But that sequence was my favorite thing about the whole movie.
Dude, I was without a reference point. Like, there may have been an earthquake in there, and I was just like, the fuck is going on here? Like, this could be anything.
Which is the point. Yeah. You're supposed to be as disoriented as Peter is in that scene. The night monkey shit killed me.
Yeah.
When Ned is on the Ferris wheel with Betty. Ned's wasted in this movie.
Well, yeah, but
kind of is.
But I thought that was a very Elaine Putty relationship.
That was
but that's the thing. It was a sitcom story.
That was funny though. Like they're on the airplane together going to London because of some mishap with Peter and trying to get next to MJ and all this, and it ends up that Ned's next to her, and then he's like playing video games or something, and you're like, oh my god, what a terrible like pairing to go to London. By the time they land in London, they're together,
holding hands.
Yeah, and then by the end of it, it's like, people go apart and all that. It's we're very mature about it.
But when she says he looks like Spider-Man, he's like, oh no, that's got to be because he's trying to protect his friend. At this point, he's the only one that knows the secret. That's got to be some kind of European knockoff of Spider-Man. And she's like, what's he called? And Ned, almost as good as I was looking at porn line, goes, Night Monkey. And then he finds himself in a situation because she's like, let's get him to save us. Night Monkey. Night Monkey. And then it comes back like 2 countries later. There's a television broadcast in the background, and the scroll along the bottom says Night Monkey.
Yeah.
And they're still showing footage of some of these. Oh, that had me rolling the whole time. It's not as though the movie is bad. It's just there were more holes for me this time.
When we send it, it's going to be insane. I was thoroughly entertained by this thing. I think it does take a long time because they start off with like where are they? In Venice the first, or is it where is
they go straight to Venice?
They go to Venice, and then there's the whole him and the kid who's grown up to be handsome, who's like MJ, like the other MJ suitor in this whole thing.
I love that kid when he's watching Mysterio fight. I don't know who he is, but he's kicking that water's ass.
Yeah. And there's a whole rivalry there where there's a point where Peter almost executes him accidentally and everything.
Yes. Oh, with Edith?
Yeah. Which, that's something I did not pick up. I did not hear. What did Edith stand for? There was something that got a big laugh in the theater when they said what Edith.
I don't even think I noticed it.
Oh, even dead, I'm the hero.
Oh, okay. That's a Tony Stark thing.
Yeah.
It starts off mainly with stuff like that, and is he going to be able to give this like ring or whatever the hell necklace or whatever to MJ? Is he going to tell her how he feels, and he's going to do it on the Eiffel Tower and all that, and then this whole Jake Gyllenhaal thing starts coming up, and it just so happens that's another thing they kind of just like gloss over. Like Fury's been trying to contact him this whole time, saying we need your help and everything, and he just so happens to be in Europe. It works out perfectly, for him and everything.
And it's not even him.
I think I'm going to be the only person in the world that doesn't enjoy J.K. Simmons coming back.
Why is that?
Same reason with James Earl Jones coming back for The Lion King. I said this to you at lunch. I'll say to the listeners, it's a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. But I feel like you're saying the only role we can't recast was J. Jonah Jameson because he was too perfect in that one role. I want to see somebody else take a crack at that role.
They should have put Lawrence Fishburne in
there. or honestly, I would have liked it better if it was like Tobey Maguire. Or Martin Sheen.
Short.
I actually have privately suggested that it should have been Timothy Olyphant because I think he could have nailed that role.
Sure, yeah.
But it is it's a stinger in the beginning of the credits. They may never bring that guy back again. I don't know. It kind of feels like they will. It kind of feels like he's going to be a presence as a media member.
Yeah, he looks
and
like
I'm
an
just
Alex
like,
Jones
you wrecked
type.
all of your continuity for that?
Yeah, I guess.
You cast Aunt May 3 different times, 4 different times. She's been perfect every time.
That's true.
But J. Jonah Jameson, we can't touch that role. He was iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Was he wasn't in Amazing Spider-Man?
No, he was just in the Raimi ones. Doesn't make any sense.
I guess my main point, what was the point of this movie?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really move the story of the universe along. Like, it was low stakes. It was a regular human that had access to technology. Even that big reveal with Jameson at the end where he's like, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Okay. So he's the only superhero that has a secret identity.
I mean, the only way... It feels like what they're going to do is Dark Knight his ass, where because they have this doctored footage, which, by the way, it makes no fucking sense to me that Mysterio hates Spider-Man so much. He's going to... Before I even die, I'm going to frame him just in case I die.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
He's like...
He's been cool with Spider-Man.
He loves him.
Yeah.
He's just trying to trick him. He even says to... Anyway, that was frustrating.
Well, and, as much as I like the whole turn in this movie, the whole idea that Peter gives the Edith to
Oh
him
my God.
is pretty stupid.
Within like a day.
Yeah,
he's like, well,
he's just like,
okay.
I've really thought this over. Let me give you this in 5 minutes. So,
And then I guess we have this. Exactly how long has you're saying that Nick Fury hasn't been in space for like the last movie and a half?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think, maybe I misread it completely. I think that when they morph into the Skrulls at the end, where Maria Hill and Fury morph into Talos and whatever, that they're setting up that whole secret invasion that everybody was thinking maybe is a thing, where the Skrulls can impersonate the Avengers and all that stuff. They're saying, for people who stick around for the credits, typically are comic book nerds, that'll be like, oh my God, they're really going to do that. And then when it cuts to Fury drinking a Mai Tai barefoot on the Skrull ship, it's basically saying, no, everything's cool.
But he's literally in space.
Yeah, he's still in space.
I feel like this movie is saying Nick Fury the whole time was Talos. And that's why he
could
fell
have gone
for
to space at any time. Though.
No, he says he gave Edith to Peter in that scene.
No, he was in space the entire movie. I misunderstood.
Okay, yeah.
He was in space the entire Spider-Man
So
Far
then I
From
think
Home.
it's fair to ask, when did he go into space? How long has Nick Fury been a Skrull?
I assumed it was just for this movie.
But then
I don't know why.
I'm still super concerned that they are going to now move forward with the freedom to do any fucking thing they want, and whenever anybody calls them on it, they're just going to go, Skrull all along. Skrull all along.
Well, I agree.
They might bring Robert Downey Jr. back for another movie and have him turn into a Skrull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. But my feeling is that they use that as a subvertive joke.
Okay. I agree with you.
So that none of that is canon then?
No, I mean, the movie itself is canon, but it's saying, oh, are they going to do Secret Invasion? Are they going to do it? Oh, no. It's
okay.
Fury's cool with it. He's gone off to space for a vacation after the events of Endgame.
I see.
So essentially, in my head, after he goes to Stark's funeral and he's at the cabin and all that stuff, he says, fuck it, I'm going to go to space. Maybe he hitches a ride with Captain Marvel to a Skrull ship and just kicks it for a while.
How come Talos doesn't get to decide his own fate? How come Nick Fury can just boss him around and say, hey, be me for a movie?
Well, maybe he volunteered.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
I do agree that the movie is cracker thin. And
it is
not very substantive.
Hey, here's Exhibit A, the fucking blip.
Yeah, the blip.
Yeah.
I don't understand the logic behind the blip.
I don't know. They go really fast on that.
They do.
Like I remember watching that and going, okay. Oh, now you've lost me. I have no idea.
Yeah, they spend 2 seconds on it, but then they constantly refer back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's also, for the second Spider-Man movie in a row, they have fucked with the timeline, because this movie opens and says they've already spent a whole school year after the blip. That's 9 months of the year.
Oh, I missed
We
that.
had to go back and do the whole school year now with summer upon us. That's where they're at in the beginning. But then Peter will call himself 15 in this movie. And he was 15 in Homecoming, which timeline-wise was like 2 years ago. So, anyway, yeah.
I need to see it again, but still, I got some issues with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fun to watch. I think it's a fun movie.
That's for me. That's what it was. Because there was very little to do with that main 3-phase arc that they did, and that there was nothing about fucking stones in there, and then it was just a regular standalone fucking Spider-Man with a little bit of reference to the shit that's happened. I was ready for that movie.
Yeah. It is refreshing to just kind of have a nice fun. My issue is that I had a lot more fun with Homecoming in a similar way.
Right.
And I wish they would have had a little bit. It almost felt like some of the fun stuff, the kid stuff, was a little bit forced.
Yeah, honestly, the whole romance storyline was blah for me.
Yeah,
I like
right?
both those actors.
Yeah.
I think they're both charismatic, but it was a foregone conclusion it was going to end exactly the way it did. There was never any question, does she actually like him?
Yeah.
I mean, they maybe wanted you to think that with the other guy flipping Peter off as he sits down next to her, but I never bought that. I always knew they liked each other, and it was just, we're just waiting till they can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by CinemaSins on Facebook, SoundCloud. We have Discord. I'll have to invite you if you're not already on. Go to Facebook on that, and I'll give you a little link, a little 24-hour link.
Yeah.
That, you can go to Discord if you want. We have CinemaSins Twitter. We have Music Video Sins Twitter. We have Reddit. We have a lot of places to talk about this very episode.
You know what else we have?
What's that?
We have 2 other podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
We just posted our halfway point of season 2 of Barry, a podcast called Starting Now.
Yeah.
A Barry podcast, which is me and Chris and our buddy Mike. You can binge on that however you want to. We've also got a new podcast that I think is in its 4th or 5th episode or something like that called Behind the Sins from the quote B team. They're always A's in our hearts and minds, but it's Aaron Dicer, Jonathan Watkins, and Danae Hughes. And they kind of break down a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff in the CinemaSins universe. And it's a fun listen.
It is. I
was actually on it a couple episodes ago. So check that out. Go buy the Ables in hardcover.
Hey, baby.
Right now, baby.
Hey, baby. Strings is coming, too, September 24th.
Oh, I can't wait. That's the coolest cover. Like,
Yeah.
the Ables cover is awesome,
Yeah.
but Strings is, like, next level.
Yeah.
And I like the contrasting
Whenever it ends
colors.
up on the shelf, all the covers of all your other books are going to, like, melt away from it because they're so ashamed to be in its presence.
That's correct. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
He and that other creepy British dude were part of like a vampire hunting team that didn't have anything to do with Slayers, right?
Other creepy British dude.
He was the guy that showed up on Halloween and like cursed everybody to become their costume. Remember that? He wasn't a demon, but he had some sort of control over them. To where everybody became their costume. So like Buffy was dressed in like a princess, like clueless.
I remember
damsel in distress. Xander was like a fucking actual soldier and shit.
So you're saying that's the guy who called him Ripper?
Yeah, that's the guy who called him Ripper, and he was creepy and British.
Well, they're the Watchers.
Yeah, but the Watchers themselves, I guess when they were younger, they
Yeah,
teamed
before he
up
became a
and-
Watcher, he was a Ripper.
He was the Ripper.
And before he was a Ripper, he was a Reaver. And before he was a Reaver, he was a Cleaver. I watched Andromeda Strain yesterday. You ever seen that movie?
Fuck
No.
That movie's weird as balls.
That came out in the 70s, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
it's fucking it rules.
Did Crichton actually direct it?
Oh, I don't know. He may have.
Because I would,
think so.
I would love for someone to do like a biography on Michael Crichton because I think that dude's career is super interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because he came out with these books. I don't know if he tried to be a filmmaker first. I know he was a doctor, but like, he did these things in the 70s that we know, Westworld and all that.
Yeah.
And he tried his hand at directing and all this, and then he didn't really become popular until Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It was Robert Wise did it.
Robert Wise, okay, yeah. He was a Star Trek guy, right? He did one of the Star Treks.
Oh, that sounds right.
I think he may have done the first Star
First
Trek.
one. If that makes total sense then, because Andromeda Strain is slow
Yeah.
and quiet.
Yeah.
And-
I think I ran
It
past it. I think I ran past it one day flipping through channels, and this was years ago, and I could not keep my interest on it because that's how slow it was.
Yeah, the only reason I think it kept my interest was because I hadn't seen it and I wanted to see where it went. It didn't go too many interesting places, but it's really, really weird because it's the first 10, 15 minutes. It's like a military investigation. What happened to this town? All these people died. But then once all the scientists are called in and they go underground, it's a completely different movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I enjoyed it. But
I enjoy it.
This is not a recommend, and this is off the cuff, by the way.
I happened upon Sphere.
God help me! God help me!
I can't stop watching that movie.
Oh, whoa!
I don't know why. I know it's so. I've probably seen that movie like 15 times.
That's terrible. Although I can't talk. I got my own.
It's so bad. I have to watch it though. It's shot really shittily and like its performances are awful.
Remember
Queen
that?
Latifah's like, "Oh guys, this is really beautiful. There's all these jellyfishes out here. Oh hey, they're stinging me. Oh hey, but it is beautiful. Oh shit, they're stinging me. Oh, I'm dead." Fucking Queen Latifah. And we know Queen Latifah can act, but Jesus fuck.
I feel like that was a vanity project because Barry Levinson and Dustin Hoffman, after Rain Man and then after Wag the Dog, they were like, "Oh, we've got some magic cooking here. We can do anything we want. Let's do Sphere."
There's a Sharon Stone is in this, and like everybody's dead except for like even Liev Schreiber's dead at this point. It's just her and Samuel and Dustin Hoffman. They've gone through this trauma and they're trying to figure out how to get off of the habitat and all that stuff. And Dustin Hoffman's like, they've got a little bit of downtime, and he's like, "You want some coffee?" And she says, "Yeah, I'll take it black like my mood."
Oh God. Oh God. Oh, that's so bad.
Do you think so? Do you think so? They know, or do you think that there's something about the surroundings when they're making it?
I think they thought they were making fucking poetry, man.
Because I bet it's really hard to know.
The book is so good. The book is
set.
awesome.
I bet you have to wait to see it to really know if you've made something
It's
good
like
or
they
not.
shot it out of sequence.
There's
It's the
a
silliest
scene
thing.
in a Shailene Woodley movie where she loses her virginity or something like that, and she has this internal
Actually,
narrative.
that's a scene in all of her movies.
That's right. That's right. I have to clarify, but I don't remember the name. But like she's having sex for the first time, and her internal narration is like, "And just like that, my virginity was gone, much like my mother."
Oh! That's like Kramer. Much like the burning upon urination that I would experience thereafter.
I've seen that. What is that? Fucking
It's something like it's got
diving bird and the
butterfly or
butterfly.
something. I don't know what the
Yeah,
fuck it
yeah.
is. It's
White
not-
bird.
The perks of having a terminal illness.
The movie was called White Bird in a Blizzard,
White bird and a blizzard.
White bird and a blizzard. Well, how would you even see it?
right?
Because
Well-
they're both white.
There's this.
I think that's what it
yeah.
means.
There's a Calvin and Hobbes strip where Calvin draws like this little mushroom, like a black mushroom thing, and he asks Hobbes, "What is this?" And that's it. That's all that's on the page. He said, "I don't know, what is that?" He said, "It's a polar bear in a blizzard blinking." It's just it's
Like the informant where he wonders how the polar bear knows to cover his
Oh
nose.
my God.
His nose is black.
So I wrote a Tumblr sin. And so I Googled Tumblr porn because they removed all pornographic stuff from Tumblr, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while looking at that, there was like from the Daily, what was it? It was like a UK, The Telegraph or something like that. Like a reputable site saying, now that porn has gone from Tumblr, here are some other sites that you can check out. So of course I looked through it. I didn't look through it, but then they did have like a bunch of subreddits of like porn Reddits. And I didn't realize that Reddit allowed such things.
Yeah.
So of course I started going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Reddit just has like
There's, like-
chicks who are like, "Hey, this is my naked body."
It's the craziest fucking thing, man. So there's a subreddit for like girls over 30 and they have their age, stuff like that. And I was like, hey, not too bad. It's what amazed me. The article listed like 5 different subreddits of like only real girls or whatever, like only you can't be a cam model and you can't be like an Instagram model or something like that. Like it's literally, and there are thousands of these people.
Yeah.
I didn't see any guys, but like there's thousands of these people that are just like felt cute, wanted to show off my vagine.
Yeah,
Here's my butthole,
right.
Kind of makes Euphoria seem a lot more realistic in hindsight.
dude. There's. Dude,
Seriously, nobody's even listening anymore. They're all like Googling subreddits, porn Reddits.
That's right.
you're familiar with this?
I plead the fifth.
I was transfixed. I wasn't doing anything untoward to myself, but I was just transfixed on like how it's like it probably like one of my fucking neighbors is like, from Nashville, Tennessee. Here's
one of the
butthole.
very most popular subreddits right now is a subreddit called Roast Me, and people upload pictures of themselves with the subreddit name and the date, Roast Me and the date, and basically everyone rips the shit out of them. I cannot understand it for the life of me because
roast like how your appearance, like it's just a picture of you,
like perfectly pretty people, and then someone will find one thought like that eyebrow is a little large, and then they'll just take it to the floor and be like,
but they're asking for this. The person.
Yes. You only post there if you want people to mock you.
Wow.
And it gets brutal. Every single thread I've ever seen gets brutal.
What the fuck are we doing?
Like, there was a girl who posted today who said she just got a modeling contract. She was pretty.
Uh-huh.
Top voted comment: do you let your boyfriend suck your dick? Because she had manly hands, I guess. I don't know. It went quickly to... I'm just saying, I don't understand.
So that girl for sure did the roast me thing. Like,
Yes.
are there people though who don't do the roast me and that same type of shit still? Is
I'm
said?
sure it does. Yes, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But that
Did
whole...
she seem like she had like, or she just looked
You couldn't
masculine?
even- she just looked masculine. That was literally all they were going on.
Reddit is fucked up.
I'm telling you, it's about as bad as the YouTube comment section in general.
Oh, my
It's
God.
not a very good place for... Now, there are some subreddits that are great for discussion, like our science is still like very strictly...
Yeah.
You're only allowed to respond to a question if you actually have a degree in that field, and like they keep it very...
So the
above
moderators
board.
are like,
Yeah, and it all depends on the moderators, and most moderators just don't care.
that's no money for someone to be a moderator, right?
No.
No, I didn't know. I know you can monetize really anything.
No, and some of them, to their credit, do a lot of work and don't get anything in return.
I tweeted about this yesterday because it boggled my mind. In Gone in 60 Seconds, Delroy Lindo says something about impounding the cars. I don't care if they're owned by Tom Cruise. So it's like, so Tom Cruise exists in this universe, but Nicolas Cage does not. And I figured the perfect stinger to that joke would be, then I guess this movie that has Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage in it together doesn't exist.
And you couldn't find one.
Couldn't find one.
Right.
Apparently he's uncredited in The Outsiders, but fuck that noise. That's
Who's
not
uncredited? Cage?
Yeah,
Cage is.
and he would have been called Nicholas Coppola back then.
Yeah.
It makes total sense since he's part of the family, the Coppola
But
family.
I figured there's got to be. I was searching the recesses of my mind, but then I did that collaboration thing on IMDb, and I was like, "There's got to be," and it was all like 77th Academy Awards, 67th Academy Award. It's like, fuck,
There's
seriously?
there are certain actors that you know for a fact haven't been together just by hearing them together, like two names, like you just like. Oh, yeah, probably too much ego there, Cruise and Cage. Probably couldn't possibly get those two
But
in
they're the same
movie.
age. They ran around the same circles.
They did.
Like, you'd think just by accident they'd be in like a Tropic Thunder or
But I
something
mean,
like that.
if it wasn't for, Taps, there wouldn't be a Cruise Sean Penn movie. Like, that's way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then once they branched out, like, you don't know of any other Cruise Penn movies out there.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck. Fuck.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you want to fuck.
When you first saw the bracket, you thought maybe it was just going to be a Marvel landslide. and
Just
it
like
ends
a
up-
bukkake of Marvel.
mostly Bukakis is
Did
what
you
I was
see my
thinking
tweet
of.
about my fork-tongued dick? Yeah. When I do the jerk-off motion?
Oh, I did not see that.
I walked into the front room the other night. My wife was watching TV, and I said, I think from now on, when I do that jerk-off motion that you do whenever you're showing disdain for something,
Right.
I'm going to do it with two hands, like I have a fork-tongued dick.
Yeah.
And she just got up and walked out of the room.
Right. Sounds like and I've read many of your tweets over the years. Not all of them, but it seems like your wife leaves the room a lot.
Yeah, well, she has learned that's one of the best ways to cope with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best just to not acknowledge me. It's like that "Just Don't Look" song on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
You don't look at Jeremy, he will go away. I'm just glad that you're the one that said it and not me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they probably like
They
manipulate.
find a way. So it's sort of like, interior decoration.
Oh my
That's
god.
definitely getting cut.
Oh, yeah. Cut City.